Welcome to the dungeon with Harlan and Andrew.
Oh no, we're almost here. Hold on. There we go. We're here. You are unmuted. I'm sure of it. So, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Dungeon, the weekly show where we talk about the art of mastering all things game mastering. I'm trying to work out a slogan for us just by like riffing on it in the beginning. Anyway, I'm Harlan Kelly. And
we might be muted still.
Still?
I got an oh no in chat.
Oh no. Come on, Wiley.
Oh wait, he says he can hear us. Okay.
Chat keeps faking us out. They've like
Chat?
learned that this is a thing, and they did it to us the other day on the stream. They're just they've become too powerful. Anyway, I'm Harlan Kelly.
I'm Andrew Orvidal.
And
this is the dungeon.
This is the dungeon. Today, we like every week we have a guest, and today our guest is Sean McGovern, aka Power Score RPG. He's been the DM for multiple campaigns that you can check out online. They use canonical campaign settings such as Planescape, Spelljammer, Hell, and you run stuff all over the Forgotten Realms. I'm very excited to have you on the show. I've been a fan of yours for a while. I'm not sure exactly in my head, but I love your content, so it's an honor to have you on.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we start off asking every guest the same question, so we'll just hop right into it. How did you get started with tabletop role-playing games?
All right. When I was a kid, I got some Dungeons and Dragons Choose Your Own Adventure books, and then there's a used bookstore, so I would go there and whatever D&D stuff they had, I would get. And I didn't understand that this is way back, right, in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? So there was basic Dungeons and Dragons and advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and I didn't know the difference. So I started playing with my friends, playing both editions at the same time, and we didn't know what we were doing. Well, it didn't matter because I knew, like, from the first time I sat down to play D&D, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a world and just build it, like, and that's what I've been doing. I've been running the same universe, for a really long time now.
Yeah, you have on your YouTube channel, like the little trailer video talks about how you run the multiverse in a way that you've been doing since you were a little kid, and I love that bit is in there because it just tells us so much that you made this decision. You thought this out when you were a kid. You made that decision. You've just been running it since then. It's so cool.
All of the gods are former characters who hit the highest level, so it's cool. Like when I run games with people now, like I'll tell them, like there was a time where I was in the game store and I'm running some game, and a person, my old friend who played D&D with me when I was 11, came into the store, and I said, "Oh, hi Stan," and I said to the group, "This is Fenrinia," and they all knew who Fenrinia was. And they all were so excited to meet the real Fenrinia, And he was like, "What, my Drizzt ripoff character?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yes, you're a Drizzt ripoff character. Everybody knows him."
That's
so
sweet.
cool. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a cool longevity when characters cross over into other campaigns and stuff. I love it.
Yeah, that's my. I've done that one time. I started with a homebrew world because the first time I played, the DM had a homebrew world, so I thought that was just like how you did it. So, I have a bunch of campaigns that I've run in there, and I've done it one time where I had somebody who a campaign fell off or whatever, but the party went to the place where that guy was, and so I was like, "Hey, do you want to join? Do you want to guest in this game?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And so he just came and played that character 3 years later, and that shit is so fun. It's so fun.
I love if you run games for different groups, and the people in the groups have never met each other, and in your head, the DM, it's like Marvel and DC, like Batman and Spider-Man, and then you mix them together and you sit back, and it's so awesome. It's so fun to see, like, they don't know who each other are, but so it's like you're the audience. It's so fun to like have them all mushed together like that.
It's the best, man. And that's my wife. She has started playing games, and she played in one of the homebrew games for a year and a half, and that campaign has just now kind of like come to a natural stopping point, and she really wants to keep playing this character, so she's going to go visit this other party that's in there that like we all play online anyway, and she's friends with them. So I'm like, I had that same like spark that you're talking about where it's like, oh, if that's true, then that's true, and that's true is the best stuff. So is that like what I think that you are very talented at taking canonical lore and kind of making it your own, of telling this story with it. Is that what kind of like drew you into diving deep into a lot of these canonical settings? It's just that idea of things existing in the world like this, or was it just because what was there? Or?
All right, so my blog, right, Power Score RPG. The point of it was partly to talk about what it's like to run games in a game store, because nobody would say what it was really like, and I wanted to talk about it. And the other reason was, so all the research and junk I did for my campaign, I could just put it in one place, and anytime I needed it, I could go get it, because I was doing this ridiculous, I get hyper focused, so like, it's like, oh, I'm going to use Igwilv, like, who's Igwilv, right? So I'll start looking, and then it's like 2 days later, and I have this mountain of stuff, and it's like, and what would happen is I would write it on a piece of paper, and then I would lose the paper, and it was like, all that stuff is gone, like somewhere in like a pile, I have this like 10-page handwritten guide of one of those drow cities, the one in Greyhawk, whatever, right? And it's just like, I don't know where it is, So it's like, I put it all on my blog, and then it's there, and that way any DM could come and use it. And also, any DM could tell me, hey, you missed this. And so then I'll like add it in. Or a DM will say, I came up with this thing. And I'll be like, I will use that in my game. I will steal your,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, I just enjoy doing it, really, I guess. Like, and what's cool is like, I did the guide to Igwilv in 2016, right? And then they come out with, right, Tasha's Cauldron and everything. Right?
Oh, look at that! Yeah.
That's Igwilv. That's Tasha.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's like I have more lore, and so I'll add to the guide, and it's fun. And it's like, and now it's like Tasha is popular, and people are talking about Tasha, and it's so cool. Like, it's like, oh yeah, and then people look at my guide and they're like, oh, I didn't know this, or I didn't know that, and then I look at it and I don't remember what I wrote, and it's fun, and like, I use Tasha and Grazit in my campaign a lot, and now there's a little update. I love how in each edition they move the story forward just like a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
What's funny about this edition is, before this, Tasha Igwilv was kind of a scandalous kind of a character, but that doesn't fit the current climate, right?
Yeah.
So now she's like this lovely witch lady, and actually one of the best pieces of art in all of 5th edition, in my opinion, is the first one of Tasha in this book, where she's a little girl sitting outside Baba Yaga's hut where she grew up, like studying her spells. It's like, I love how they're kind of slowly expanding the lore, and I really enjoy putting it all together.
Yeah, yes, I agree. I'm a sucker for those tidbits. I want those little details. My friend and I were just today. I don't know. We were just talking about this is going to be a big Critical Role episode tonight, and we were just like talking about a couple of sentences and the campaign guide that they've put out, and they're like, it could be this group, but that and I love like getting to zero in on that with people. And then when you run campaigns in these worlds, or even if it's your own world or whatever, all of a sudden this pile of details just pops so much to the players because it's like important to the character for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's like shows like Critical Role when they use the Raven Queen. So many people watch that show that people are interested, and so it's cool. Like when I play with younger people, they'll know certain things just from Critical Role or a show like that. It's very cool. It's very handy. It's like, oh man, they're excited. It's cool.
Totally. Backing up just a little bit to the subject of paper, doing stuff on paper. I still do all my combat on paper, on like graph paper, just because I just enjoy it, and I've saved every single one of them that I can think of. I have like them all bound, and it's fun to go back and I can look at them and I can remember like each battle. Like, oh yeah, I remember the specifics of this. I was just curious as a DM how you run combat. If you use a spreadsheet, do you have any like digital tool or paper? Just how you've settled on running it.
Okay, a whole bunch of stuff springs to mind. All right, real quick. Back in 4th edition, right, they would make the PDFs of the adventures, right? I would print them out. And when we would have a combat, because 4th edition was all about combat, right? So I would always sit everybody down and be like, okay, we got 5 hours. We're going to do 5 combats, and that was it. We're playing Scales of War, the adventure path. And what would happen is, what I would do is, because I was very big on writing summaries of each session, so I didn't forget, when we would have a combat, I would sit there and write in the margins anything cool or funny that happened. And then when I went home, I would type up the summary and, look at those notes and type in all that stuff. So I'd have these gigantic summaries of each session with all the fun details of the combat that nobody ever read, including me. But they're there forever on my goofy website. I can look at them anytime I want. When I'm running a combat now, what's funny? Someone was just talking about fudging dice rolls, right?
Oh yeah.
So
we talked about that in our last episode.
Yes, I think I just watched it, so I think that's where I got it.
Oh, thank you.
So all right. As far as combat goes, usually what I do is I have a piece of paper. I still use paper, so I'll write down stats, like in the session that's probably going to come up. So I got them all, everything I need on one sheet. And usually, if I know what's going to happen, I'll write down any relevant rules, because I can't remember certain rules. Like anything to do with underwater combat, I can't remember.
Boy.
I can never remember concentration ever. I can never remember how it works. So I'll write that junk down, and especially like poisons. Finding the green slime in the Dungeon Master's Guide always kills me every time.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I have all the stuff I think I'm going to need on that one piece of paper,
right.
And I can just mark stuff off. And sometimes, if I'm not sure if a battle is going to be too easy or too hard, I write in a range of hit points. I don't like to cheat, but sometimes you just don't know how it's going to go, and you don't want it to be anticlimactic,
Yeah, yeah.
So you're like, this is how many hit points they have. This is the maximum they could have.
Mm-hmm. So
if I have to, I can use a little more than normal or whatever. But I I really don't like doing that. And 4th, I let the dice fall where they may. You just roll right in front of everybody. It's much more fun that way.
Yeah.
But in 5th, it's a little swingy.
Yeah.
Like, because I ran the rod of 7 parts. I converted it to 5th. So we're having the big battle with the Demon Lord, Miska the Wolf Spider, right? And I'm like, is this going to be too hard? Is this going to be too easy? I have no idea. So I'm like sitting down, I write out every power he has. I think about and in the end, it was like a little too hard.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much you can do,
Yeah.
It should be hard, but it was probably a little too hard,
Yeah.
And then you get into that weird situation, where you're the DM and you don't want them to see you pulling your punches. But you have, are you going to let them all die? And it's like, and that's why when you're preparing, you should always think about what if they lose? Because the bad guy doesn't have to kill them. A lot of times he'll capture them or whatever, or some NPC shows up to save them if it doesn't feel cheesy,
Yeah.
But it's a lot of planning involved, But for me, I write everything on a piece of paper because I'm not going to remember certain things, and I know that going in. And I don't want to stop. I hate stopping the game to look up a rule. I hate it.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid that as much as I can.
I love that because it's such a good, there's this Chris Perkins old quote from him where he's like, all of his sessions he plans on one piece of paper or whatever, which feels wild from someone who manages so much lore and everything, but it's all in his head. But I think just having that idea is similar to exactly what you're just talking about of going in with the tools that you're going to need so that the tools stay out of the way. Who do we talk to, Andrew, about how they're I use roll tables, but I use roll tables to prep. And was that Keith?
It's Josh, I think.
Yeah.
Was it Josh Smith?
I'm not sure. But I've just like never thought about that before, about how much you can do to prepare for the session in these way, in whatever way. Like I love that like you're just like writing out so you know where everything is, so you can roll in confidently. We've talked a bunch on here about like improvising as well, and how to plan for it basically. And I think that exactly what you're saying is such a good way to go into a session, when it's just like, here's what I need, and then if things go outside that, it's fine, but you at least have your toolbox.
It can be so terrifying when the group goes off on a completely something you didn't expect. It's like, a lot of times, most times in the games that I've been a player in, the DM blocks it, like puts up a wall and just won't let you do it. And when that happens, to me, it brings the whole thing down. It's like, we're not really free to do what we want. We're going in this direction. And then it really feels like a railroad. And I'm very pro railroad, but I want the group to be able to play. And, but the problem is I don't want the session to suck.
Yeah.
And if they go off and just completely, like in your Spelljammer game, if they decide to go to a different crystal sphere, it's like, oh no, what do I do?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like you could filibuster and just throw a bunch of fights at them to fill out the session so you can plan after, but that can look obvious, So it's really hard. But it's those are usually the best sessions.
Yeah, I know it's such a fine line. Andrew and I were talking about this week because on our game on Monday, I knew I kind of like I want to get him to this point. Like this is where we're going. Like you guys have already decided this is the goal. Let me as the DM tell you like this is how you get there. And it's a weird balance of like I want you all to get there. I want to make that easy for you. But also, I want there to be some choice here. Like, I want you all to know what you are doing here, and then, go for it. I have to, like, I feel like I talk about that all the time as a DM with any game. It's like, I want you guys to know, it's clear, it should be clear that these are hooks in front of you, like, these are all things you can do, but I am not attached to you doing any of them. Like, go for it. Do whatever you want. But it's a hard balance.
Thing I've kind of done lately in the last 10 years, at the end of a session I will ask everybody, all right, what do you want to do next session? It can be anything you want, just tell me, and then don't change your mind when we start, okay? Because it's going to be horrible if you do that. But you can do anything you want, just tell me now, and that goes a really long way, I think, in helping to make the game fun. You don't want their eyes to glaze over,
Yeah.
I think everybody's played through a D&D session where it's just like a slog, and it's just not.
Yeah, or like a side quest that you didn't want to go on, but the other players wanted to, and it's like, all right, it's got to just make the best of it. Yeah.
Like a dungeon, of rooms that are inconsequential. That's the one that kills me. It's like we're fighting like a kobold in a bedroom, why? Can we move it along?
Yeah.
That's so I try to avoid that as a DM. And then the other thing is, of course, as a DM, you have your idea of what's fun and what's not, but everybody at the table has a different idea of what's fun and what's not.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get in the spot where it's like, you look at them and you're like, I like this, but I don't think they like that,
Yeah.
Like, hold on here, because I know this person likes X, and then so you got to kind of really always, that's what I say, you're always like fiddling with knobs as a DM. Constant adjustments, like constant, It's like I have this group, the Dungeon Academy group of people who had never played D&D before, and they were watching Dice Camera Action and Critical Role and stuff like that. And so they wanted more of that kind of an experience. And in my life, most D&D is not like Critical Role. Almost none of it is, because nobody is Matt Mercer.
Yeah.
And we're not all actors, So I can try, I will try to give you that, but just don't, bear with me because I do a really bad voice, you know.
Yeah.
And please don't make me roleplay two NPCs talking to each other because I will kill myself, you know. So, you know, and then they're like, okay, cool, he's going with it. And I think that's all they ask for.
Man, yeah, and it seems like you're like that's such a good point of a good tip for DMs watching this, that when somebody has something they want, like, oh, we like Critical Role or whatever, like, you as the DM probably know there are components to that. Do they mean that do they want the NPC with the funny voice, or do they want like the long arc story, or do they just want like their party to have time to get into shenanigans? There's like all these different pieces. This game, any game that you play in, is going to have a bunch of different pieces. So like being able as a DM to kind of like pick apart a little bit, like, okay, you like this game, but what do you think of when you like this game? Yeah.
I think I thought a lot about what do players want. Like when I was running games in the game store from like 2008 to 2015, I would always think about, what are all these people coming here for, like, really? And for them, what I figured out it was they want a group of friends that they have in-jokes with, and they do crazy stuff in the game. And that was kind of, I think, what most people were actually coming there for. But now, in like the quarantine Zoom era, the Critical Role era, I think a lot of people are looking for the Avengers movies where you have these big emotional moments, like when Iron Man, hugs Spider-Man, and the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of come together. I think, to me, Guardians of the Galaxy is like the ultimate modern D&D movie, right there. That's a D&D group, you know?
Yeah.
And everybody wants to play that, basically, in D&D, a version of that, where we're all, they kind of want, it's weird, they want like an emotional story, something they can get emotionally invested in, because players love their characters, right? And they think about their characters, and they imagine scenarios, and they want to actually play those scenarios. So it's kind of like my job to roll it out for them, and see what happens, because the dice tell the story. You could set up Guardians of the Galaxy, but you don't, in D&D, you don't know what's going to happen. Right. Nobody knows, and that's kind of the fun of it,
Yeah, you could go anywhere. We had a good question in chat, kind of on this subject what we were just talking about, from Jason Wardell, who can hype Jason, does the live score for our show Better Than Heroes, which is awesome. He's also been a guest on this very show. But he asked, how do you pivot in that moment where you feel that things are going wrong? Like, you can sense the player energy dipping, whatever it might be, a combat encounter, a dungeon, a side quest. Do you have any in the moment techniques for pivoting on that, or are you just like, let's just push through this and there's sunshine ahead?
Okay. It's crazy how well this works. You go, let's take a 10-minute break, and then like on your show you put up that graphic where you get a drink and pee, right?
Yeah.
So everybody goes to get a drink and pee. Then you sit there and you start brainstorming and writing and adjusting, right? And you will be freaking amazed at how much you can come up with in 10 minutes. Because it's usually not, they're all there, you know what they want. So just tweak it and, whatever. And you're good to go. It's crazy. And players love a break.
Yeah, truly. It's true.
If you play, like, depending on how long your session is, if it's only 2 hours, maybe no break. But a lot of people play really long periods of time, like 3 hours, 5 hours. So 10-minute break, you'll be good to go. I mean, DMs are creative, right? That's why we're all.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, that's true. Like Harlan once in our game, immediately before a boss fight, he found out that a player had like such a strong aversion to spiders that she didn't want it even in the game. So Harlan was like, let's take a break. And it was like a 5-10 minute break. And then we went totally different boss encounter, but you never would have known it had there not been the conversation, Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, we had a substitute boss. Like, you can't tell.
No. Yeah. I mean, that was the best, because it feels good to be on the same page with your players like that all of the time. It feels great to be able to be like, and most of the players, everyone wants people to have fun. They will be sitting there feeling bad if the person is feeling bad. And like what? That feels like some sort of like D&D sport. Like DM, you have 10 minutes. You have to pick out a substitute boss. All you have are your monster manual. Go. It's just like, that's the best stuff. It's fun.
Yeah. Iron Chef.
Yeah.
Dungeon mastering.
God, we should do that on here. Like write an encounter in 5 minutes.
It'd be fun. Yeah. I had an unrelated question. I was just curious. Do you have any strategies or techniques for players who spam low impact things? And I'm talking about myself specifically as a player. I love to spam insight and I love to spam perception because there's no downside to trying them. They're like invisible actions and it's almost like a little cheat. It's like, oh, I rolled a nat 20 and found out that this person was lying even though I wasn't supposed to find out till much later, or I saw this hidden thing. And I definitely, as a player, I feel like you're doing this too often. Like a little bit is okay, but I'm doing it too often. I was just curious if you had any strategies in game to maybe curtail that.
As a DM, especially a newer one, your first instinct is to block it or punish them or whatever. But I think really what you want to do is indulge them. When you sit down to prepare your session, go, all right, he's going to use insight. What can we do with that? What funny thing could happen? Because this dude is always using his insight. He's, that's his thing. So let's put a bunch of insight stuff in there. And it's funny because I'm working on a DM's Guild adventure, and I want it to be. You ever see the movie The Usual Suspects?
Yeah, I love that movie.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be kind of like a crime movie, and I decided I was going to make this the insight adventure, where the characters can use insight in every scenario and something special will happen. So I think that's good, really. It's cool, players are quirky, and they love it when you indulge them, because I think there's just, in the past, I don't know if this is still true, in the past there was a lot of DMs who were very, very strict. Mm-hmm. They ruled with an iron fist, and they beat you down if you did stuff that was outside of what they wanted you to do. And I think players really appreciate it when you don't do that and you are not scared to embrace it,
Yeah.
And there's such
on the same team, all the results, everything is better for sure.
Yeah, and a thing I often instill is like usually somebody wants to do a check, 2 people can do a check at any time. And that's just it. Like if you try and find the thing, you don't find the thing, you don't find the thing. And I think I've experienced in a lot of games that like people, like the players will tell other players, like, oh no, we can't like search the room, like we already did 2 investigations. So if it's like standard kind of, those things help. But man, it's like we were talking to Steven last week about just like building systems for what's fun. When you were talking, like that insight game sounds so fun, or if you have a player who's once is just like clearly having a good time, or is just like excited about being this type of character who's always trying to figure out if people are lying or not. That's such a good prompt as a DM to be like, okay, what happens if they roll bad? And like, just you have to talk to the player and be like, okay, because we do this. If you roll bad and I tell you this person is lying and you got a 1, like be sure and go with it. Like encouraging them to kind of be creative, and you as a DM being creative is like. That's such a good.
There's a couple things with those rolls. One is with insight. Sometimes the DM should roll it because you're not going to know if you failed or not, right? Ooh. But what I ended up doing was I wouldn't even have them roll after a while. Like when it came to searching a dungeon, I got so tired because they're all going to roll, and then one of them's probably going to make it. I just tell them.
Yeah.
They're in the room. Yeah, oh, there's an outline of a trapdoor. And then when you're preparing it, you go, okay, they're going to see the outline of the trapdoor, then what? And you can build on top of that. So it's not like, oh, I've been foiled or whatever. Yeah. You can just assume, okay, they're going to search and they're probably going to find it. So what do we do then? And in the original Castle Greyhawk, it's so interesting to me reading about Gary Gygax's Castle Greyhawk campaign way back in the 70s when he's creating Dungeons and Dragons, is he would have a pit trap and then another pit trap, and if you fall in it, there's a secret door, and you can go into, and it connects a tunnel to another pit trap, and it just got more and more funky. You fall into the pit trap, you go through the secret door, there's a secret trap door in the bottom of another pit trap. It's it's just so weird the things that can happen in D&D. When you develop it, you know.
Especially when you could try, like, are able to shed. I mean, this is like my favorite thing in the world, and I've been DMing since 2016, and I still have to, like, you know, it's a muscle I have to exercise all the time to, like, make sure it doesn't feel like the DM versus the players thing, and that you're not trying to win, and that, like, failure is as fun as success. Because when you're with a good group of folks, it's easy, but you also kind of have to, like, use that in the story, and, like, putting those trapdoors at the bottom of pit traps or whatever that thing is like a muscle that's hard to do.
Sometimes as a DM, if it feels like it's too easy for them, your natural response is to clamp down. But as a player, sometimes it's fun when it's easy.
Yeah.
You know, you have a whole session where it's just like because we're clever and we made good rolls, you make it, you know. I mean, you want there to be some kind of challenge, but I think it's important not to overreact and get hard. It's a real downer when the DM is really clamping down on you, you know, and it's like, ooh, he's putting the screws to us now. Like one time, this is one of my not so great moments when I was running a game in a game store, and there was this 9-year-old girl who played a character named Dark the Dragon Sorceress, right? And there was this trap in Tyranny of Dragons. I could not wait to run. It was like this boulder made of bones, you know, all these bones, and it rolls down, and she rolled a natural 20 on her save against it, and I still had it hit her. People in the comments were like, Sean, that is not cool. And I'm like, you're right.
Wait,
you're right.
Did you just have it hit her because you wanted it to be cool and you wanted it to work?
It was some weird circumstance where it's like, well, it's got to hit her somehow. I mean, she's in a tunnel. It fills the whole tunnel, but she rolled a 20. You know, she made the save. But people were like, come on, Sean, it's a 9-year-old girl, and you're what is wrong with you? I just loved that trap so much, and I really wanted it to do something cool, and it's just not right.
But man, that moment will stick with you forever. I feel like I had this happen recently where I disintegrated a character in a one-shot, and he was playing a tabaxi that was a version of his own real cat, and I realized, I was like, shit, I really should have like telegraphed that there are still more disintegration spells to be done, and like this is what could happen, and blah blah. Because like he's an advanced player, he knew, but still, there's just like a you get got thing that didn't feel good, and I'm like, okay, cool. Next time, I know that if I'm gonna throw disintegrate, I gotta like.
Yeah, but everybody, you can't bring your real world pets into the game. That's like even my daughter even knows. Like, don't bring our dogs into this game. Bad things.
Yeah, bad
things
cool.
happen to non-magical animals. Don't bring our real pets in the game. Don't bring any animals that you're not ready to see chomped by something into the game. Come on.
It was my mistake. I should have asked me. He's my best friend in the whole world. So like, I didn't even think to be like, hey, can I like? We should talk about this before the game because I just wasn't thinking about it. But you know, you live and you learn. Okay,
it's fun. I mean, it's a fun idea.
Yeah.
We have a roll table, Sean. If you could roll a d20, it's a roll table of questions.
I got a 6.
A 6.
Okay, cool.
Oh, you already answered this one, so I feel like
give him advantage.
I'll have you re-roll. A 6 is literally what's the most fiendish trap you've ever pulled on a party. I think your boulder of bones crushing the 9-year-old girl who rolled a nat 20 is probably that.
The most fiendish trap. All right, there is a 2nd edition adventure called The Labyrinth of Madness. It's for level 20 characters. It was written by Monty Cook. I could not wait to run it. So way back when, my 2 friends had these super high-level characters. I'm like, you guys want to go through The Labyrinth of Madness? And they're like, sure. My character's awesome, you know, right? And so they get in there, and this dungeon is so ridiculous. Like, there's trolls, and they have these poles, and on the end of them are glass globes. And in the globes are black puddings. So the group is climbing down a ladder, getting into the dungeon, and they just start just covered in black puddings.
Oh boy!
These trolls are mauling them to death, and they got mad and left the dungeon and refused to come back.
In game, like in character.
In real life.
Oh man.
Every in game,
so
real life, the
funny.
whole thing.
That's great.
They're like, we're done. We're
Yeah.
not doing this anymore. This is stupid.
What
That's
do you
great.
do that? Yeah, if the player's like, we're not going to this expansive dungeon that's supposed to cap this. Like,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
I am.
Oh, man.
I actually converted it to 5th, and I'm gonna hopefully run it sometime this year. I can't. I've been waiting so long to run it.
Awesome. I'm a huge Monty Cook fan. Dead Gods is like my favorite adventure ever. Yeah, that's awesome.
I rolled an 11. If you want to do the other one.
Yeah, let's get him in.
An 11. Oh, okay.
Dead Gods is good. It's just it has that weird second adventure
Yeah,
that you're supposed to like weave into the first one.
yeah.
And it's just like
It's like six.
can't-
It's like
can't
6
do that.
adventures. Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to do that. You know? It's like I can't make that work. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I think I ran the second one as its own thing. Maybe I don't even remember.
I'm fudging your 11 because we've asked that one a number of times, but I will ask you this one. What's a table rule you have that you wish would be canon? Like a table rule that you're like, I wish this was just part of the rule set.
I'm not a rules guy. If it doesn't work, I just don't care. Like I'll say to especially in 4th edition after a while where it was like, oh my god, you know, because I love 4th, but it was just like took forever. So my general rule is if you have a really cool idea, it just happens. I don't care what you know, and when you roll just to see how awesome it is.
Yeah.
You know? So and if it's a 1, then maybe something wacky happens, but it's still gonna happen. So, you know. Like if someone wants to like it was something about like back flipping off a tree or something, and I'm like, it just happens. You know,
Yeah.
you do that. What happened? You know, now you still have your whole round. You know.
Yeah, like, I don't want to make you roll an athletic check for just like cool shit that you think of. Like I just don't want to do it. It's not fun. If there's a moment that's fun, if it's like, oh, you have to jump across this like from ship to ship or whatever, like that could be fun. You know, it could be a fun, suspenseful moment. But when it's just like, I do this cool thing, let it go.
I like it with a character like Flute because I think it's funny when he like eats
Yeah.
shit and doesn't do well. But yeah, it's normally like cinematic stuff. I like that.
Doesn't your character have an alternate identity, or what was his name?
Wind
Was
Rider.
it some-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Flute
yeah.
and
He's
Wind
got
Rider.
the faceless background, so he's got kind of 2 identities.
Wait, what was the name of the other one?
Wind Rider.
Wind Rider. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Like,
his.
I wish the Wind Rider was here right now. And you're like, if only he was.
It's true, man. It makes saying a character's name in game very difficult, but it's been the best. It's led to a lot of fun stuff. So,
Cool. Well,
Can
thanks
I
so much
sneak
for
in-
being on the show.
I want to sneak
yeah.
in one. We're way over
Yeah,
time
do it.
here. I'm sorry to both of you for holding up your time, but I want to sneak this question in because Sean, you have run a lot of really cool adventures. You were like my intro to Planescape. You got me hooked on Planescape and like Sigil and such. Like
Did you read the Planescape summaries I wrote?
I have. Yes, that's like my intro to them was like watching DCA
yeah.
and you like doing lore stuff, and that's how I like fell down the lore rabbit hole. But you've DM'd a Spelljammer game, and I'm DMing a Spelljammer game. Do you have any advice for me? Because you're in like a pretty like good like long campaign, and there's a lot of stuff in there, and I would love a little bit of advice before we go.
All right, I ran a lot of Spelljammer way back when in 2nd edition, and I played in it a lot. And actually, I loved so much playing Spelljammer. And now I mix it in when I can. Like my Dungeon Academy group has like a fleet of Spelljammers, but we don't. It's hard because it's just you only have 2 hours in a session. You could do a ship-to-ship battle, but that's going to eat up most of your session. So it's just like, it's hard.
And it could kill a player. I mean, I'm just saying, you could kill a player that way. So
He almost died. He almost died that way. Yeah.
But it's like, so you're always like, time is so precious, you know, it's when it comes to D&D.
Yeah.
And a lot of it gets eaten up with talking, which to a point is good, but you can't, you got to cut it when it's time to cut it, or else nobody's going to get anything done.
I know, they're too damn funny. It's a problem. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if they're really funny, then just sit there and let them be funny.
Yeah.
But if it's like it's just like, when is this not productive?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, but if the point is to have fun, then we're having fun. You know, so I don't need to cut it, I guess. But as far as running Spelljammer, there's so much cool stuff out there that nobody's ever touched.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wrote a bunch of articles about where I pulled out. I have 1 or 2 lists of this magic items from Spelljammer.
Yeah.
Which like nobody has ever touched or used, and it's like,
there's so many spells in there too.
God, somebody read it and use it. You know,
Yeah.
because it's like, I hate D&D history is littered with people who came up with cool ideas that never got used in a game. You know,
Yeah.
it bothers me, and that's Spelljammer to me. Like the monsters, a lot of the monsters are really goofy, but in there are a lot of really cool monsters. And part of the problem with the Spelljammer Old Monstrous Appendix was some of the art was really bad.
Yeah.
So you get this really cool monster, but you see the art and you're like, ugh, I don't want to use that. You know, you don't even read the, you just move on to the next one. You're like, that's so stupid. But if you actually read the thing, it's really cool. So
What's your favorite? Is there any that you can think of that's like your favorite one? Because like the first time I read through, I was just like stuck on the Gravis layer. I loved it so much, and I like built it into 5e and ran it, and it was such a great time. And I've been kind of like I also enjoy like throwing homebrew monsters up on there, and have been fucking around with that because it just gives you an excuse to be in these crazy worlds to make any monster you want. But is there one that like sticks in your head as like, this thing is so cool?
Okay, well, I wrote I think 3 or 4 articles listing my favorite Spelljammer monsters.
Okay,
ones
cool.
that spring to mind: the Bionoid, the elves.
Yep.
Get this chitinous armor, and they can pull it open and shoot this like force beam. Those are really cool. The Skrull, the space orcs, they're actually really cool. They have those Witchlight Marauders, these huge monsters that they send down to a planet to just destroy it. And then the Nyogi, to me, are one of the best. And they're in Volos.
Yeah.
But there's some good articles in Dragon Magazine that expand on the lore of the Nyogi and the Umber Hulks and their relationship. And there's actually like 3 Umber Hulk gods, which I put all this in one of my articles. And the Nyogis have their own spells. And just the whole idea of the Nyogi, the space slavers, these evil little things. They make like the best villains,
Yeah.
One of the, like, my friend ran a Spelljammer campaign, and probably one of the coolest villains I've ever played in a campaign with was a Nyogi. He's just like, I hate this guy, and he got away again, It's like, we're gonna kill him,
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's got Umber Hulks, like a bunch of them.
A bunch of them.
And they make you all confused. You're never gonna, how am I supposed to get to this guy, So,
Umber Hulks are so good. Yeah.
And then there's all those weird environmental ones. There's like a space mirror, You're just flying through space, and then this mirror, like, and there's like somebody inside it, like, and it's like, this is awesome, Spelljammer is so cool,
That was mine. That was the one I was gonna say, is a space mirror, which they will see at some point. So I'm not gonna give any details away. But
let's get that stat block, if you don't mind.
Well, yeah.
One more monster.
Do it.
The Comet Steed. It's a horse that races through space and leaves a trail of stardust behind it. And there's this, you can get a ring of a comet, where you can summon your Comet Steed and ride around on it.
Oh, hell yeah. That's what I want, Harlan. Put that on my loot wish list.
Okay.
I want to fly. I want a ring that summons my Little Pony that I can go through space.
I put that ring of the comet in the game, and man, did every single player want that thing so freaking bad, because they all wanted to ride a horse through space, leaving a trail of stardust.
Man,
you're going to find some legendary, makers of magical items. So who knows?
I'm sorry. I got one more.
Please.
The Fire Lich. When a Lich fails the ritual to become a Lich, he becomes just a head surrounded in green fire, and he flies through space screaming, So you're flying along on your ship. What's that in the distance? And it's a Lich head. Who's really gonna kill you?
Sean, you're giving away all my plot points now, all right? Come on, man. No, yeah.
Love it.
Man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me as someone who's just like really enjoyed your work for a long time. And I hope to talk to you again and see you online. Is there anything you want to plug? I'm going to put I just put your YouTube channel, your Twitch channel, and your Twitter in the chat here for everyone. So if you're watching this, make sure you go follow Sean. There's a lot of these campaigns that we've talked about. You can just watch. You can do it. But is there anything else you want to plug?
Let's see. I I haven't been running games lately. I'll probably start in a few months again. But for now, I'm focusing on my blog and DM's Guild stuff. So I just put the review of Tasha's on my site. In my opinion, it's one of the best 5e books so far.
Oh boy, there it
I'm
is.
about to post a review of this the Wilderness DM screen thing that just came out. It's really cool. If you know any kids in middle school that are interested in D&D, please buy this for them because they will.
I do
have an
happen
awesome
to know.
campaign.
I run the RPG club at my daughter's middle school, so.
Because this is just like, you give this to a kid, right? And like, they got their hex maps, and so the DM kid comes up with the forest, and then you plop your friends down and they play through it, and it just seems like it would be so a great way to like first start playing D&D, you know?
Nice.
Like, because those first 7 sessions, you know, that's the golden time to me. So it's like this is a great, I think, in my opinion, a great product for that. So yeah, and also on the DM's Guild and on my blog, I've got guides to the adventures. I sell them on the DM's Guild, but they're pay what you want, so you can just get it. I'm fine with that. I've accepted that. Or you can just go to my blog and get a version of it for totally, no PDF. Just get it. And so the weird thing is, right? So Ryan of the Frost Maiden. I spent like a month of my life making a guide to this freaking thing, right? And still, this is crazy to me. I know we're done, but Curse of Strahd is still more popular. How is that possible?
Oh wow.
Since I made the guide to Curse of Strahd, people are by far, almost by 2 times, more interested in Curse of Strahd than any other adventure. It's crazy.
I think because it's just like the sexiness of vampires. I'm saying that in a cultural way. I don't find vampires cool or sexy. I think that they're boring. But if you were to tell someone like, hey, it's a horror adventure with vampires in a castle, or like, it's a bunch of words you don't even know right there in the title, Rime of the Frost Maiden, and it's like, I think it's, I can see that, but I'm about to start Icewind Dale, and I'm very excited. I read the whole book. I think it's awesome. I think there's a lot of very cool stuff in there, and I'll check that guide out. I'm before I run it for sure.
Get ready for chapter 1.
Yeah, I heard it's dangerous.
No, it's gonna take you forever to prepare. So be ready.
I hope I get to play in it. Let's do it, Andrew. I want to play. But yeah, Sean, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Everyone, please go check out his stuff. Thanks for hanging out with us in chat, everybody. And
we have some cool stuff to plug.
Yeah.
We have a Spelljammer show every Monday, as we mentioned, at 7 p.m. Pacific. It's called Better Than Heroes, right here on this channel. And most of that crew is going to be guesting on Stream of Blood this Saturday. They're playing Blades in the Dark, which is a super fun game, and they're just playing a one-shot of that, I believe. I'll be watching. I'll be there and chat with all of you, and the other 3 crew members will be playing. And I'm excited for that. I think that starts at 6 Pacific time.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Check out Stream of Blood. And then we'll be doing another stream of 10 Candles, December 5th, right here, I believe with the same crew, Kyle Kinane, Eliza Skinner, Sarah Greengross, Dylan Van Wald, Desiree Brown. So looking forward to that as well. And then I'm going to cross streams for just a second because I have to do stand-up comedy tonight at 7 o'clock on this stream. I'm putting in the chat. If you're bored tonight and want to watch stand-up, there's the link. Kyle Kinane's on the show. Tom Thakar, Janae Burris, Allison Rose. It's going to be a great show. It's free, and you can just stream it. So, yeah. Watch how awkward and terrible stand-up comedy is nowadays.
Go watch it with airline peanuts.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody in chat, and thank you, Sean. I can't wait to check out your guides and DM screen.
Don't forget, tip your DM.
Tip your DM.
Tip your DM.
Yeah.
All right. See you later, everybody.
All right. We'll see you next week.